Oh, 9 o'clock on your Monday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher along with you here on The Game, navigating away from what was a very, very busy weekend across the sports landscape, and a lot to get into over the course of the next hour, which we will certainly do as best we can. But the most important question this morning, Jack, is how we doing?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Yeah, I'm ready to attack this week with you, and I'm kind of glad I don't have to do the 12 to 3. I'm glad. Is Terry finally back yet, or is he?
No, Terry is back tomorrow. So I learn, and I check in with him daily to kind of let him know what the rundown is for the day and stuff like that. So he's been in Baltimore because his son, his youngest, is graduating, and his son goes to like a fancy private school or something like that. And last week they did all like the festivities leading up to graduation. There was presentations and ceremonies and all that kind of stuff. And today is the actual graduation, apparently, because I thought that was done on like Friday or whatever. So this is his final day away. He'll be back tomorrow and we can restore some normalcy. So you have the honor today of being the first of, I believe, up to 8 people that I'll be working with over the next 6 hours.
I wish you the best of luck because I know you're going to need it. It is going to be probably a busy day. But how was your weekend? How are you doing?
It was good. My nephew turned 11 yesterday, so went back home to Georgia, saw him. Obviously cake, ice cream, the whole 9 yards. Good time.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's awesome for you.
I saw you checked out the Savannah Bananas this weekend.
I did. That was very fun. It was a great time out there at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. So just a really cool vibe, man. Totally different from any baseball game that I've ever been to. And so I really liked it, and I could see why it appeals to such a wide demographic.
I was listening to the last couple of minutes of Bill and Preston on the early game, and I knew the Bananas were divisive with people. It sounded like they had about a 50-50 split between, yes, they're amazing, and no, I hate them so much, which I've never been to a Savannah Bananas game, but I understand what it is. I understand the appeal, and if I got tickets to it, I'd absolutely go. It looks like a lot of fun, but I think there's a lot of people that are, I guess, sports purists that don't like the fact that it is a entertainment form of baseball. You know what I mean?
I mean, look, baseball is that sport where they need it. Number one, they need something like this to happen. And you want to talk about appealing to the younger kids that could either go play football or basketball or whatever. I mean, this is the next generation we're talking about here.
Sure.
You need those people. And there are a lot of kids that go to those games for the Bananas. So they're doing a good job. I mean, it's entertaining. And the one thing I will say is that, there's other things out there like the Globetrotters. It's obviously scripted and whatnot. But
sure.
You look at Bananas, it's hard to script baseball. So
it is.
I mean, they're playing the games legit. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll get into a little of the bananification of sports a little bit later on in the hour because I want to dive into this a little bit deeper. But it's cool you got to see that. How is watching baseball at a football stadium?
It's definitely an adjustment. I think I'd rather prefer them just because I think Caroline was telling me this was the final weekend where they're doing games in a football venue because they went to Clemson earlier this year. They went to Raymond James Stadium in Tampa.
Yep.
So I believe everything from here on out is MLB or minor league, wherever they're playing. It's actual baseball field. So it's actually going to look good.
Yeah.
They can pack it out, though. I mean, they can pack it out. It's definitely a great crowd, but the dimensions and stuff, they make no sense.
Well, again, it's a fun form of baseball, so you can't be that upset about it, right?
No, not at all. I mean, right field was barely pushing maybe 200 down the line.
Yeah. Left field's 600 or something?
Left field actually wasn't that deep. It was probably about MLB distance at probably 300 something feet. It's just center field is probably, I mean, center field's think of polo grounds with how deep
okay,
it is.
So they set it up long ways. They weren't at an angle?
So they were kind of going from the corner.
Okay, like when the Marlins used to play at Hard Rock.
Yes. Except you can't. This is a made for football stadium.
Yeah,
so it's not with sunlight with where the Marlins used to play at Hard Rock. You could remove seats and kind of shift things around. Same thing with the Raiders. So with this, you're kind of just stuck with what you got. That's why the dimensions are so wonky.
We'll dive into more of that a little bit later on in the hour and talk bananifications and other sports. But it is 9 o'clock, and we got to kick things off with our Sandstorm Pick Me Up.
Time to get hyped.
Here's your 9 a.m. Sandstorm.
Sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers. Just call all nines.
It is time for your 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick Me Up, brought to you by South Carolina's largest injury law firm, George Sink Injury Lawyers. If you've been hurt in the car or at work, call George Sink now at 803 all nines. A lot of things did happen this weekend. Women's College World Series came to an end. We're setting the table for the Men's College World Series. You know, you had the NBA Finals game number 2 last night, but nothing bigger than the news that happened after we went off the air on Friday afternoon, where the settlement has finally been reached when it comes to name, image, and likeness, revenue sharing, and all that kind of stuff. And we are officially, Jack, entering into the new era of college sports where players and athletes will be able to be paid directly by their universities.
Yeah, it's something that has been talked about for a long time here, and it's going to be something that is game-changing for college athletics now in the future, where, you know, in years past, you're basically just relying on NIL and donors and all that sort of stuff, funding to help pay these student athletes. But now it's going to come directly from the schools with up to $20.5 million. And the other interesting thing about this, I think it kind of doesn't probably get talked about as much as the current day players getting paid by the schools, is that there's going to be $2.8 million in back pay for student athletes who competed between 2016 and 2024, where they couldn't necessarily earn NIL for their schools just because that wasn't how it worked back then at the time. So I think that's a really good thing. I think it honestly should go even further back, maybe even like the beginning of the 2010s, just because you had so many good athletes that just did not get paid legally. So I think this is a big move.
And it's important to remember, and yeah, this whole thing's been illegal the entire time, right? Like the NCAA, when they created their amateurism rules that didn't allow athletes to get paid, they were violating antitrust laws, which it took basically 100 years for that to finally be discovered and the Supreme Court to rule against them. But yeah, they have to eventually probably pay back all those athletes over the years that could have benefited from this. But this is such a groundbreaking thing going forward. And in a way, I was telling Terry about this earlier on the phone, in a way for us, it almost doesn't feel like news because we've been talking about it so much and planning for it. And universities, even if the settlement didn't get approved, we're planning to go ahead and kick it into gear starting on July 1st anyway. But now it's officially official. And I don't like the fact that a lot of people are positioning this as like, hey, this is the solution. This is the answer to all the problems that we've had in this NIL era, because it's not. If anything, I think it's going to make things possibly 10 times worse. Because yes, you're going to still have you're going to have direct payment from the universities to the student athletes. And again, we've talked about how they divvy up the money between sports, and football's going to have $13-ish million to spend on their roster every single year and all that kind of stuff. But NIL is not going away. NIL is still going to exist, and you're still going to have the best of the best athletes making probably millions upon millions of dollars. Where this gets really murky for me is this new clearinghouse through Deloitte called NIL Go, where it is supposed to be the place you go for the NIL deals, where you have to present it to Deloitte and they can approve it or disallow it, right? According to Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports, if this would have been enacted in 2021 when NIL went live, about 70% of NIL deals would have been deemed not good, and they would not have allowed them to happen, which is now where you're opening yourself up to even more litigation and more lawsuits because, again, we've got into this mess by people saying, hey, or athletes saying, hey, you can't limit what I earn based on eligibility, based on this, based on that. This is going to open up a whole new Pandora's box of lawsuits because they're going to start saying, hey, we don't think this is a legit NIL deal. You can't have it. And that's going to bring them into court once again. Like, this seems like a death loop of lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit that doesn't really fix anything at the end of the day, unfortunately.
And it's one of those things where you mentioned the NIL Go, any NIL deal, I believe over $600 or more, is something where you have to get it approved by whoever for to have the NIL deal. And I think that's kind of crazy because you look at most of these NIL deals, I'm sure a lot of them go over well over $600. So you're going to be looking at where you're right. You're probably going to be seeing a lot of lawsuits, especially if a lot of these NIL deals that seem fine are turned down.
Well, and I understand in principle what they're trying to accomplish, because by doing this, they're trying to say, hey, and look, let's not beat around the bush here. It's become pay for play, right? The majority of NIL deals are not quarterback A is doing a spot for a car dealership and getting paid because of it. It's quite literally, here's a collective. They have raised X amount of dollars, and they're going to pay you X amount of dollars to come play football at their school. This is what the clearinghouse is attempting to stop, put an end to by saying, hey, if you're going to have an NIL deal, it better be with some kind of business or something where you are providing a service of some sort through your name, image, and likeness to this business, this group of people, whatever it may be. It's not just, hey, here's money, come play for my school. Again, I get it in principle, but there is no way this is going to work the way they think it's going to work.
No, it's not going to work. I understand what they're trying to do, but at the same time, there's always loopholes. There's always ways around this sort of stuff. And you can best believe the collectives are probably going to find some workaround to make this thing work in their favor.
That $600 line, as you said, is what, if you have an NIL deal worth over $600, you have to go through this clearinghouse to get it approved. I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to see a lot of $599 NIL deals done to get around this.
Oh, totally. Something like that, just to really, make sure that they don't have to go through the process that they would if they had to put down 600.
Yeah. So again, we've entered a new era in college sports where again athletes are going to be able to be paid directly through their universities. And again, the money of $20.5 million divvied up between the sports and all that kind of stuff is going to be a hot commodity for a while in terms of how schools divvy it up, what schools, give more to football, more to basketball, those kind of things. It's going to be interesting to see this play out. But if you think the days of the $12 million quarterback like Bryce Underwood, depending on where you read, is over, it's not. It's if anything, I think it's going to get worse.
No, it's going to. I mean, we're really opening up a new age of college football here, and we talked about the purists earlier. They're not going to like this one, and it's going to change college sports for probably forever here.
And I don't want to get misconstrued. I've always been pro athlete being able to benefit off their name, image, and likeness, but again, if this is seen as a solution to fixing the problems that we've had in this wild west of NIL that's been around for the past 4 years, it's not going to do that. I'm sorry.
No, it's not. Again, it's just there's so many problems with a lot of the things that they do. And look, this is, I don't know. I mean, I think this is probably all right for college football, but I don't think this is the end-all, be-all kind of solution that they need.
We'll be talking about this plenty as the day goes along. As again, Friday was a pretty pivotal day in the history of college sports and what it means going forward. I guess we can officially declare amateurism dead if it wasn't already dead at this point.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So we'll dive into the other things that happened this weekend as well on the actual fields and courts. That's coming up next. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Feltry with you on your Monday here on The Game. Tyler Ed here once again telling you about our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist. I tell you about it all the time, but I will remind you once again, you always need to be on the lookout for things around your home that may be a little bit off. Things like cracks in your exterior brick, cracks in walls or above windows and door frames, doors or windows that might be sticking, uneven or bouncy floors, or cracks over your garage door. If you notice any of these issues with your home, you could have serious foundation problems. That's where our friends at Canty Foundation Specialists come in. Go online to schedule an appointment today at cantycanfixit.com. They will send a professional out to your home to evaluate your foundation issues and get them fixed so you can live without worry going forward. Again, go online to schedule an appointment today at cantycanfixit.com for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist.
Ground ball, backhanded by Good, over to first. And you can light up the UT Tower burnt orange. Texas is finally bringing the championship home to Austin.
Welcome back in. Extra Point, Tyler Head, Jack Veltri with you on your Monday here on the game. That was the call on Friday night on ESPN. Beth Mowins there with Texas. Yes, indeed, claiming their first ever national championship in softball, taking down in-state rival Texas Tech 10-4 in game number 3. And Jack, we're texting back and forth in this one. It got out of hand pretty quickly. Najee Kennedy has done a phenomenal job this season, but Texas rocked her on Friday night right out of the gate.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this game was over in probably, honestly, you could probably say after the first inning by scoring 5 runs off of Kennedy in that opening frame. I mean, it was just a lot of damage done to her early on. And this is something where we've talked about her. I mean, she is making over $1 million in NIL deals. Like, she is a star for Texas Tech. And for Texas, a team that has been to the Women's College World Series 2 of the last 3 seasons coming into this game. I mean, this is a program that they lost in the Women's College World Series last year, obviously, to Oklahoma. They're looking to win it finally in this year in 2025, and they're able to do so. And they threw the first punch early. And I think, honestly, it was really a knockout blow just because Texas, I mean, they scored, let's see, all 10 of their runs came within the first 4 innings. I mean, they were up 10-0 in this game going into the 5th. Texas Tech got a run in this game. So, I mean, the Longhorns really dominated this one right out of the gate.
By the way, Najee Kennedy did re-sign with Texas Tech prior to Friday's game, and because that came in before the news of the settlement, that means that her deal is grandfathered in, which will not be affected with this new clearinghouse and all that kind of stuff. And there were a lot of athletes that have gotten that done before the deadline where that won't be affected, at least for this upcoming year. But again, and I know Friday was obviously not what she wanted it to be, but she was the primary reason why Texas Tech got this far and got to play for their first ever World Series championship. And she's probably going to be a big reason why they get probably pretty deep next year as well.
Oh, totally. I mean, you mentioned the fact that she was able to get that NIL deal in before, which is very true. I mean, it's good that she was able to get it in for her sake of making more money and whatnot. But you look at this from Texas Tech standpoint, I mean, you got to continue to invest in softball if you're going to win it all, because obviously one player can help you get there, but you need more of that. And look, Kennedy didn't really have it on the biggest stage in this game. So it happens, and hopefully for Texas Tech, they're able to get back here next year.
Obviously, on the men's side of things, on the baseball diamond, we are setting the table for the Men's College World Series, which comes up later on this week, as you had super regional action this weekend, and perhaps it shouldn't be surprising. It shouldn't be surprising, but I think a lot of people very quickly said, well, there's no way that Coastal Carolina can go in there and beat Auburn. Not only did they beat Auburn, they dominated Auburn to the point where Coastal Carolina head coach Kevin Schnall made it a point to say after the game, hey, they're no Cinderella.
This is no Cinderella. I want to make sure that's known. This is no Cinderella. Coastal Carolina, the past century, only 8 teams have been to the regionals more times than us. During that same time period, we've got the 6th best winning percentage, the 9th most wins. This is not a Cinderella story. We're one of the premier, most successful college baseball programs in the entire country, and our Hall of Fame coach retired last year, and he left a foundation for this team and this program to remain successful and to remain one of the premier college baseball programs in the country for the years to come.
And he's right, and this is their first College World Series appearance since that national championship back in 2016. And again, they didn't really leave any doubt as they beat them 7-6 on Friday night and then 4-1 on Saturday afternoon to officially punch their ticket.
This is a really good team, and he's right. Like, this is definitely not a Cinderella. Like, what Cinderella out there is going 53-11, winning 23 straight games. And they're just a very well-rounded team. And to do what they did going into Auburn, I mean, they've been great on the road this year. They're 19-7 on the road this season. So, look, I know they don't play necessarily like the highest level of competition throughout the year. Then again, they did sweep Clemson this season in the regular season. So It's not like this team is just some random getting hot at the right time. They've been hot all season long. So to do what they did going into Auburn, once they won game 1, it's like, all right, obviously if you win game 1, you have all the momentum, and they carried it into game 2 and played a really good weekend out there at Plainsman Park.
So they make it to the College World Series. Arkansas takes 2 away from Tennessee, so Tennessee will not be going back-to-back. Arizona makes it out of Chapel Hill after beating North Carolina. LSU beats West Virginia 2-0. Oregon State beats Florida State 2-1 in their series. Louisville gets past Miami this weekend, and UCLA beats UT San Antonio 2-0 as well. And the only game that is going to a Game 3 for today is Duke playing host to Murray State. Murray State, by the way, really running over them in yesterday's game to force this game, number 3, 19-9. And whilst Coastal Carolina may not necessarily be a Cinderella, Murray State very much feels that way. And if they can win that game today, they'll punch their ticket to the College World Series.
They're definitely what you would call a Cinderella, just because how many times do you ever see a 4 seed get to Omaha? I mean, that's something crazy that we're talking about here. But this is also one of those cases where I think it's like, it doesn't matter what the seed is. This is just a team that came into the postseason playing really good baseball, and they've caught fire. And yes, I mean, I do wonder how that's going to look today, considering the fact that they just ran over Duke yesterday, 19-9. I think it'll be one of those things where you see Duke able to turn the page rather quickly, but if Murray State's able to strike early, like they kind of pick it up right where they left off, it might be tough to stop them in this game.
For reference, this is their first tournament appearance since 2003. They've never been to the College World Series. They can win today. They'd obviously punch their ticket to do that. And I was thinking about this over the weekend. As you said, it's very rare for a 4 seed to obviously get this far. I feel like out of all of the tournaments, it is the toughest to make a deep run as a 4 seed in baseball than it is as, a 15 or 16 seed in the NCAA tournament, or as it is being what we now know as a 11 or 12 seed in the college football playoff now. Like, I think because what baseball requires to go this deep, you obviously have to go to offense. You have to have deep pitching as well, and you just have to be able to put your best foot forward more often than not in these 3-game sets and stuff like that, where I really think what Murray State is doing, if they can make the College World Series, is one of the more impressive Cinderella runs we've ever seen.
Oh, totally. Like, again, a lot of things do have to go right for them to be able to get to this point, but getting through the regional is probably the toughest part, just because, I mean, you're playing the 1 seed in your first round, and if you lose to them, you're kind of looking at, okay, now you got to win 4 games in a few days here. That's just not possible in most cases. And what they were able to do, they beat Ole Miss not once but twice, and very impressive to see this team get to where they are now with 1 win away from going to Omaha. And we'll see if the moment's too big for them or not. But
sure.
I feel like the fact that they've gotten to this point, they've probably felt like, okay, the pressure's not even on us right now.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, when you have a scrappy underdog team like that, you want to put them away quickly, because the longer they hang around, the more they're going to believe, the more they're going to have momentum on their side. And, I don't know. I'm excited for tonight's game to see if they can do it.
Yeah, no, it'll be very interesting. But either way, I mean, Duke's a very fun team to watch as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing which of these teams gets to Omaha, and they would be paired with, I believe it's paired with UCLA in the first round in Omaha. So it should be a very fun final 8 teams going to the College World Series.
Yep, so looking forward to that. Again, coming up tonight at 7 o'clock, and that'll be on, I believe, ESPN, where you can watch it to see who the final team advancing to the College World Series is going to be. And not a whole lot to say about last night's NBA Finals, game number 2. OKC did what they should have done in game number 1 and just finished it off because, again, they dominated. They managed about a 15 to 20-point gap for most of the game. It's just this time, the Pacers' magic didn't happen in the fourth quarter and mount some kind of crazy comeback. Though I kept almost kind of waiting for it, right? Like, I was like, okay, I know it's a 17-point game with 5 minutes left, but they might still have it in them. And then once you got in the last couple of minutes, like, okay, this is over and done with.
This should be one of those series where I know they're going back to Indiana now tied 1-1, but, like, I really do think the Thunder should be able to win this series in 5 games. When they play their best brand of basketball, which is forcing turnovers on defense, scoring like they can sometimes, I do think this is a team that is going to be very hard to beat the rest of the way. And, again, just one of those nights where you see what the Thunder can do when they're at their best.
If Indy can grab game 3 and get the first one at home, I'll still have some belief they can win the series. If not, if they drop down 2-1, then that's probably a wrap.
Yeah, I think that's probably how this is going to go, but we'll see. I think we're going to head back to OKC in a few days, and we'll see OKC on the verge of ending this series.
So that's what happened on the field this past weekend. Also got some news on Friday as well. If you want to really help out your favorite college football team, there's a way to do that. We'll hit that coming up next. It is The Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you on your Monday here on The Game. Welcome back in. Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you on your Monday here on The Game. Jack, when you were like a kid and you were like playing video games, did one of your parents ever tell you, well, that's not very productive, go do something else?
Maybe. I really don't remember, to be honest, but I would just say, look, if you want to play video games as a kid, more power to you. But also, like, I always enjoyed getting outside more than anything.
Well, we're in a much different world when it comes to video games now, and the information that is available to those game creators, as we learned over the weekend as well. If you're an avid player of College Football 26, which is set to release here in right about a month, I believe July the 11th is the official release date. Depending on what school you use, you could directly be affecting how much that school and those athletes make, depending on how many games you play with that team.
It's pretty crazy, to be honest, that is possible now in 2025. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense considering where we're at with college athletics and basically college football in general, with revenue sharing and all that stuff, because obviously revenue sharing, college football is going to take up the overwhelming majority of that $2.5 million. But with college, with the video game coming out, this is something that is definitely different than any other video game we've ever seen.
So here's a statement from CLC Learfield, who this is being done through. It says, for each college football product to release by EA Sports, we at CLC Learfield will provide a percentage for each institution based on the games played for that institution as a percentage of the total games played across all institutions. The percentage of games played will become the final allocation percentage for each school that will be applied to the total gross royalties for all institutions received. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of legal mumbo jumbo, but it breaks down like this, and this is per On3. Simple scenario. The royalties in a university pool would be $5 million with 700 million games played. If a user plays 7 million games as school number A, the school's allocation would be 1%. Therefore, school A would receive $50,000. Now, in the grand scheme of things, we're talking about rev share and all that kind of stuff. How far does $50,000 go? Not super duper far. I mean, you're talking about probably about a third of the salary of one player on the football team, if the numbers that we are kind of going off of, end up being true. But still, it never hurts to have some kind of money. So by playing as your school, you are technically, or your favorite school, favorite team, you are technically helping them out by allowing more money to be allocated towards them when these payouts come.
Yeah, I think people really need to get into playing dynasties with the smaller teams that don't ever get a lot of love, the bottom of the tier FBS teams. Help those programs out that need the money, probably. But no, man, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, we're going to see that probably a lot with all these bigger schools and stuff. But it is going to be interesting to see how much these lower tier group of 5 FBS teams can get, just because, a lot of people enjoy playing the dynasties that are a lot tougher.
So this has been unearthed by Matt Lieberman of CLCT. So we don't know all the specifics of it in terms of what EA Sports is going to say when the official news of this ends up coming out. But I do wonder, because look, there's loopholes for everything, right? There's a way to work around everything where you can say, okay, well, I can't go play 700 million games with South Carolina to make a difference. I do wonder if simulation plays into this, because you can simulate a game in the blink of an eye. And yes, it would take a lot of people, but let's say, and look, people can hack into things and do all kinds of crazy stuff. Let's say somebody did decide to simulate one school 700 million times to kind of swing this in their direction. Again, unless they say it's not possible, I'm going to believe that somebody can do it, right?
Oh, totally. And wherever there's a will, there's a way. I mean, it's one of those things where I think it's definitely going to get to a point where you see like an absurd amount of times a team is played by users out there, and it's going to bring in a lot of money for the schools out there that get played the most. And yes, it may not be a lot of money, but look, at the end of the day, it's still money, and it's something that's totally different from EA and college football.
Yeah, again, because it takes so much to move the needle one school to the other, I feel like the teams that we probably suspect are still going to be towards the top of this thing, again, Ohio State, Alabama, Michigan, Georgia, Texas, like I feel like those are going to be hard. And I don't know if EA Sports is going to release these numbers publicly or not. but I imagine it's going to be hard pressed if you want to say, hey, you know what? I really like Kent State. I want them to get a little bit more money. Let me go make sure that they are the most played team on this game. I don't know if you're going to be able to move the needle that easily. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely not. You're definitely not.
It's going to take a team of people to move the needle for a team. Let's say that.
I would say so. You would need a complete collective effort from a whole fan base to be able to get it the way you need it.
I do love the fact, though, again, you have this. You have the fact that the athletes get paid more in the game this upcoming year compared to last year. It seems like it's around to stay, which is cool because I think part of me worried when they brought it back last year, like, okay, this might only be like a year or two thing because the newness is going to wear off. Like, no, people are in on this. Like, this is not going anywhere. I really hope we get college basketball back in the near future because those games are fun, too, and have been gone longer than the football games have. Now, again, you don't have as much money going through college basketball, but I hope we can find a way to make that happen.
And college basketball is one of those sports that does make a profit. So I think it's definitely possible. I think there is enough demand for something like that to happen. But you're right. I felt the same way. And okay, I think this might be a one-year thing with college football 25 coming out, and that might be it. But in the case of this, I mean, it looks like we're going to be getting this game for years to come. And I don't think it's one of those things where we get to worry, kind of like we did with the old NCAA games where, there might be a whole issue and you might have to shut the game down.
Well, and, kind of relating it back to the point of, the news of the weekend with, the settlement being approved, this really all kind of stemmed in a lot of ways from the video game because it was Ed O'Bannon watching, his kid play a game, seeing himself in it, being like, hey, why am I not getting money for that? That started this whole snowball effect that has eventually led to where we are today. So the video game has always kind of been a central part of this in some degree when it comes to the overall NIL and all those kind of things in college sports.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how far things have come. And, I never really thought the day would come where we would be getting college football back in a video game form. And it's pretty cool to see it finally come to fruition a year later.
I can still cross my fingers and hope that one day we can get another college baseball game as well. Don't think it's going to happen, but I can hope.
That might be a little bit of a longer shot, but I'm glad to see MLB The Show has subtly incorporated it into their game. It's not really what you want the full thing. I don't know if we'll ever get there.
NCAA MVP Baseball 07 was such a fun game, and I wish we could have something like that back again.
Look, if there's a demand out there, it's always possible. So
that's true.
We'll see.
Speaking of baseball, you saw the banana version of it this past weekend up at Bank of America Stadium. We'll get your thoughts on that and also discuss what other sports could be bananified in the future. It is The Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you on your Monday here on The Game.
Bananas. He has homered in 3 straight football stadiums, trying to make it 4 in a row. With the game on the line, Super Reese! Are you kidding me? The foregone conclusion is complete. Super Reese wins night 1 in Charlotte for the Nanners.
Welcome back in. Extra Points Hour Head and Jack Belcher wrapping up hour number 1 here on the game. And that was the call on Saturday. Was it Saturday? Did I get that correctly? Up in Bank of America Stadium where the Bananas walked off the Party Animals to win. Jack was there in attendance for this one.
It was actually Friday. Sorry.
It was Friday. Sorry, I get my days mixed up here. You've seen your fair amount of walk-offs in your time covering baseball and obviously being a fan. Where did this one rank?
Well, I was not in person for this, but
so you were there on Saturday, but had this happened Friday?
I was on,
okay, all right, multiple days. I see. Okay, got confused on that one.
Yeah, so they played Friday, and I was hoping because look, going into the 9th inning, the Bananas were winning by a run on Saturday, and then the Party Animals did score 4 runs in the top of the 9th. And you know what? Honestly, I'm okay with it because number one, I think my sister was asking me about this yesterday when I came home, and she was asking, how was the game and all that, and she asked me a really interesting: is it scripted? And I mean, I think it's impossible to script baseball, number one. And so you see stuff like this. Yeah, I don't think it's scripted because you can't just not try in baseball. You have to try. And it's one of those things where the Bananas are not always going to win. And the Party Animals are pretty much they're a pretty good team, to be honest.
And that's what makes this so intriguing. And again, they're basically following the Harlem Globetrotters model of making a sport more entertainment-esque. But yes, you still have you don't control where the ball goes when you hit it. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of elements to it that really fascinate and wow you because, like, wow, how are they able to do these kind of things for something that is as unpredictable as baseball can be? And again, you give him credit, and I forget the guy's name that owns the team, but his story is incredible because they were basically down to nothing and almost bankrupt a couple years ago before they turned it in to this now global phenomenon that is the Savannah Bananas. And I came away from the weekend after seeing that clip and hearing people talk about it, like, can this work with other sports? Like, again, you have it in basketball already with the Globetrotters. Could there be a football equivalent to this? Like, could somebody do this with football as well?
It's possible. And it's not just the on the field thing, potentially. I don't know if we could totally see it, but maybe. The one thing I will say that you definitely need to have that is so underrated, and this goes back to the Bananas owner, Jesse Cole, who has done a phenomenal job. You notice how much, if you follow the Bananas for a little bit now, their mantra is putting fans first. And so they focus on the fan experience, not, pricing people out and stuff, and giving them something to where they have the 2-hour time limit. Like, they're speeding up the game to where, like, people are going to be in their seats. And so they're providing the best experience possible. And so that's something that we see the Globetrotters do as well. That's something that needs to be considered here when you're talking about another sport taking this kind of route. Because if you're not putting the fans first, you're going to end up in a situation where you're not going to have the most crowded venues ever. Like, you may, but it's not going to be the best experience that the Bananas can provide for you.
I also wonder because in football, there are so many, like in baseball, okay, all right, you pitch, you hit, and then, okay, fly ball is going to go out to the right fielder, where not everybody has to be a part of the play. In football, it's a different story because you have 11 on one side, 11 on the other, and there's a lot of variables that go in play here. Well, I don't know if you can create the entertainment aspect of the game that obviously makes the Bananas and the Globetrotters so successful.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just what the Bananas have right now, and the same goes for the Globetrotters. They have the formula. I think it's just pretty simple. I think if there is a football-based one or even a
hockey, I don't know,
like hockey, like literally any other sport, you just got to follow this model. I think it's pretty much just laid out here that you have to be entertainment first and not so focused on the results on the field and giving the fans something that they won't get at a NFL game. Like, the NFL is a one-on-one experience, honestly. So don't try to be like the NFL because you see the XFL and all these other leagues struggle. The CFL is pretty good, but you have to be different. And I think that's the main thing that a football league like this, or even hockey, would have to strive for.
So you would recommend a Savannah Bananas game to anyone?
Yes. I know baseball purists out there won't like it, but honestly, it's very entertaining and it goes far beyond what the results on the field say.
I don't get the people that go out of their way to hate it. It's like, okay, then don't watch it. Don't go to it. Like that's fine. But some people are so hard against it. They're frothing at the mouth anytime you bring them up. Like, we don't have to be that extreme about it. You know what I mean?
Well, look, they're selling out NFL stadiums, and you have people getting to the stadium over 3 hours early to pack it out. Like, it's not going away anytime soon. And it's been a really cool thing to see kind of get to this point.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I don't know, I'll try and get myself out there one of these days.
You need to.
I'll do it for hour number 1. Jack, we'll see you tomorrow. Thankfully, you don't have to do 12 to 3 today.
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow, man.
All right, it's hour number 1 of the Extra Point in the books. Coming up next in hour number 2, Sam and Jalen jumping in here with me. Talk some more NBA Finals and what's going on with Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers as well here on the game. It's our Ed once again telling you about our friends over at Twin Peaks right down the street from us here in the Vista. It's officially bikini season. If that's not enough reason to visit your local lodge this week, epic deals on your favorite summer cocktails are also in session. Try Transfusion or Spicy Mango Lemonade to kick off your summer at the Neon Bikini Party running through June the 10th, which is coming up on Wednesday, which will culminate with the Miss Twin Peaks live stream, which you can watch at 7:30 coming up on June the 11th. Do not miss it at your local lodge, or excuse me, June the 10th at your local lodge. That's coming up this tomorrow, actually, coming up on Tuesday. As always, you got TV as far as the eye can see, tons and tons of delicious food, and of course, those 29-degree draft beers. All that and so much more with our friends at Twin Peaks right down the street from us here in the Vista. 10 o'clock, welcome back in. Hour number 2. It is the Extra Point. It's all right, along with you. A little bit of a special 10 o'clock hour here on this Monday. Sam Shapiro, as always, hanging out with me. Our guy Jalen Tart as well. Usually here on Wednesdays, but here today. How we doing, guys?
Just another Monday in paradise, Tyler. No complaints.
Yeah.
Living the dream, man. We're striving and surviving. It's Monday. Been a very crazy sports weekend.
A lot of ways.
So to speak. Yes, a lot.
We got to get the fit check for Jalen. What's the shirt we're rocking today? We always have to check his shirt because it's usually something interesting from a thrift store.
So really, I got this about a week and a half ago. Plato's, once again, this is a Travis Scott Astroworld shirt. Luckily now, I think the documentary of the Astroworld controversy, well, not really controversy, but the actual incident where Astroworld Fest was going on and a lot of those people were getting trampled, that is coming out on Netflix in the next 2 weeks. So I was very happy that I found this to go correlation with the documentary. So, yeah.
That sounds a lot like, do you guys ever see the documentary about Woodstock 99?
No.
Check it out. It's on Netflix. It's fascinating.
Okay.
Because they did Woodstock 2.0 and it was bad. It didn't go well. And that's kind of what the Astroworld thing sounds like a little bit.
Yeah. But I love Travis Scott. And that's kind of one of the other reasons why I wanted to get it, because I don't have any Travis Scott wear or anything. So I was like, I had to get this for $8. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's got kind of a retro feel to it for our listeners that don't really have the visual or can't necessarily paint the picture.
But you can watch on the Game TV, sponsored by Shepherd's Glass and powered by Integrated Media, and you can always see it. So that option's always there.
I was throwing you that one there, Tyler. But yeah, no, I like the design. It's got kind of a retro feel to it.
Yeah.
You know, he's one of the newer artists, so I think it blends kind of old with new in kind of a way. But I kind of want one of those shirts. Not gonna lie, Jalen.
And Astroworld is one of my favorite albums from him, so it's just like, I needed to get this on the low. I'm like, you can't really find this anywhere else, so I was just like,
Meanwhile, Sam, the guy from up north, and now that it's 85 degrees, is still wearing long sleeves. I haven't figured that one out.
I mean, honestly, I do that too. When it's cold in buildings, I have to wear a jacket. So
it's not really that cold in here.
Yeah, it's not that cold. But for me, I get it. Me living in New York for 2 years, I understand where Sam's coming from wearing a jacket.
I feel like once it hits like 60 degrees, you'd be like, oh, this is sweltering.
Well, okay. So I knew it was gonna probably be colder in the studios because you got all the gear and stuff and whatnot. It's gonna be, you typically run it colder with the air conditioning, so I figured I was gonna be cold from that. Because when I go outside, I'm probably gonna take this off.
Yeah, I can adjust the temperature in there too. I do have the power to do that. So if you get colder, just let me know. I can bump it up. I do have that power. Oh man, last night, game number 2 of the NBA Finals. Thunder pretty much controlled this one all the way through and ended up picking up the victory. Not really much of a contest, 123-107. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of what game 1 should have been, minus the Indiana comeback. Because again, the Thunder controlled that game for the majority of it until the Pacers had that crazy surge in the fourth quarter and won. And there was just none of that crazy surge in the fourth quarter last night for Halliburton and crew.
I think the thing with this game, they figured out a way to limit Halliburton's shot attempts, where he didn't really get a whole lot of going in the first 3 quarters, but kind of got it going in the fourth quarter, scoring 12 points.
He does know there are 3 other quarters, right?
Yes.
He can play in those too.
But the other thing, too, there were no players from the Pacers team to go over 20, which is very, very interesting. And you got to give credit to the Thunder's defense. They were able to make key adjustments in the game. And also, too, like SGA, once again, having back-to-back 30-point games. I think with him, I'm kind of wondering for Pacer fans, how do you slow him down now that this series is going back to Indiana? So I'm really interested, Sam, to see what your thoughts on the game were.
It's just interesting. This last game, I think the Thunder did a slightly better job of containing Halliburton overall. I mean, he kind of, like you were saying, went off more in the fourth quarter offensively, but he hasn't really needed to score 25, 30, 35 points. He hasn't really needed a lot of those games like the one we saw against the Knicks where he had the triple-double with no turnovers. He hasn't really needed to do that just because he's done a really good job of just, getting guys like Naismith, Miles Turner, even guys off the bench, too, just involved in the game. And I think that's what's kind of kept this team in it. And now I feel like when you're watching, even when you see the Thunder have a 12, 15, 17-point lead, it's almost like they're only up by 2 or 3 baskets because they go on a run where they score 4 or 5 baskets and it doesn't even matter anymore.
And the Thunder know that they can come back. I mean, their fans were just sitting on the edge of their seats like, okay, we're waiting on this Pacer comeback kid magic. But they were able to find a way to control the game and control the pace. But again, I just feel like with Halliburton scoring 12, I think you need more of what Halliburton was able to do in the fourth quarter. You need that to be sustained throughout the entire game going into Game 3 and Game 4.
And my question with that is, at what point did you know it was actually over? Because, again, the other night, I think there were a lot of people that probably could have turned it off early fourth quarter in game number 1 and said, okay, OKC's got this. There's no way Indiana comes back. And obviously they did, 15-point comeback, and Halliburton hits another crazy shot to win the thing. So I'm watching the game last night, and, like, I think that it's over, but you can't know for sure until, like, literally it's the final seconds of the game. I'm like, okay, now there's actually no physical way they can come back. That's just the mindset people have on this Indiana team because they've done it so many times in the playoffs so far.
This is so silly, but like until there was less than a minute on the clock, I was like, okay, it's over. They're actually going to win by 15 tonight because game 1 I was watching. I think I got up off my couch to like maybe heat up some dinner, and I came back and I went, how did that go from 12 to 4 in the matter of?
They do it that fast.
My thing was when I saw the score 52-29, I was like, yeah, it's over. I knew it was over, so I was like, okay.
But then they had a little run at the end of the first half, too. It's like, okay, here it comes, here it comes.
Yeah, but then I was watching the box score because I was working at the time, and SGA was just they just kept coming. Luke Dort, Jaden Williams, and Chet Holmgren. I just think those 4, as long as they're playing at a high level and they're able to get to the free throw line and contain Indiana, they're going to have a chance. I think with Indiana, they need more scoring other than Halliburton. Pascal Siakam is doing what he can, but I feel like he could do a little bit more. But it can't just be with Tyrese Halliburton. And Halliburton is a pass-first guard. I want to see him be able to take control and be a little selfish in scoring the ball at will when you need to. And you got a great opportunity when you're going back home to Bakersfield House.
Yeah, so back in Indiana going to Indiana for the first time in this series, coming up on Wednesday. And that is goes without saying, so pivotal. If the Pacers can get that game and go back up 2-1, then I'll feel like they have a chance in the series. If they drop that game and fall down 2-1, I think it's pretty much over from there.
I don't know. I'm not going to call it off just yet. I think you having 2 games at home, it gives you 2 opportunities because if it could be the other way around. If Indiana wins, because typically in Game 3s, the Thunder have not won Game 3s. We saw it against the Minnesota Timberwolves, and we saw it against the Denver Nuggets. I'm willing to see how they're going to respond on the road going against a packed house Indiana Pacer fan base and going up against this team. It could really go either way with this Game 3. Whoever wins Game 3, 80% of the time, they're going to win the title. So that's going to be the deciding factor.
I think whoever takes Game 3, like catering to Jalen's stat, I think whoever takes Game 3 is going to be the heavy favorite to come out on top overall in the series. But, I mean, we've seen recently, Phoenix fumble away a 2-0 lead in the NBA Finals, and Chris Paul was long overdue for that championship. So, I mean, anything can happen, but I think whoever gets Game 3 is going to be the heavy favorite going forward. I don't think you count OKC out just yet, and you certainly can't count out Rick Carlisle just because of his track record, his resume, and arguably having the most valuable NBA championship over the last 15 years in the Dallas Mavericks. So, I mean, anything can happen, really, but I think whoever takes Game 3 is going to have a lot of favorable momentum going forward for the rest of the series.
Again, Game number 3 coming up on Wednesday. That's back in Indiana. That'll be 8:30 on ABC. Now, a lot of the controversy surrounding the finals so far has revolved around the production of the broadcast, the feel of the NBA Finals or lack thereof. And one of the big complaints that people have had for the past handful of years is that it does not appear like a finals game. Like for so long, you had different court designs. You'd have the Larry O'Brien, a trophy on the court and the script finals written out there. And it just, it made it feel bigger. And I saw somebody make this point after game number 1 that it just felt like a random game in the middle of January. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing special about it outside the little, golden bar that says NBA Finals at the bottom of it, but nothing else about it sets it apart. And I guess in their attempt to try and do something, last night they put a digital Larry O'Brien,
it's like a PNG,
yeah, like a JPEG, basically on the court above and below the OKC logo. That didn't even last the entire game.
It felt like a NBA 2K League type of feel. I think when we were growing up, we saw the big Larry O'Brien trophy in the middle of the floor, the advertisement, the nostalgia of the past, of of the players that were great, that cemented their legacies in the NBA Finals. But now it just it's not like the NBA Cup, where you have all these different courts being, visually shown.
Your in-season tournament should not feel bigger than your finals.
That's what it feels like to me. I just don't see. It feels like a regular season NBA game to me with these finals.
I mean, when you were looking at these NBA Cup courts that were like 7 different colors, it honestly looked like it could have been a Nerf gun advertisement just from all the decorative. For the NBA final, they put NBA Finals on YouTube TV, on the court, on the sideline, on the scoring table, more than they would have actually put any sort of marking to indicate that it was a championship game anywhere on the court. And then they're having this, and I think if they even had the P&G logo changing throughout the game, that would have gotten by a few more fans more than just slapping a generic trophy on the side. Even if they printed that on the court, they would have not gotten a lot of, clap back for that.
So that's my thing, is I feel like, and again, this has been going on for a couple of years, they saw the backlash from game one. Hey, this doesn't feel like the NBA Finals. Okay, well, I don't know what it takes to get one of those kind of things printed to put on the court. Probably didn't have enough time to do that. So like, all right, we'll do the best that we can and slap this, digital version on there that, again, didn't even last the entire game. I think that makes it look worse because it feels like you're barely trying, right? You know what I mean? Like, you should have had the foresight to do this well ahead of time, make the finals feel like the finals. And again, even the TV production itself doesn't have that kind of feel. Again, if you're just a casual person flipping channels, you wouldn't really know the difference between that and just a random regular season game a couple months ago, I feel like.
And there's reason why viewership in the league over the years has gone down, and it's because of stuff like this. You take away, the giant Larry O'Brien trophy in the middle of the court, or, and you replace it with, putting a digital picture that, you can literally see fans going through the actual it's ridiculous. And it's like, it's taking away from some of the best parts of the game that, made people fall in love with just watching it in the first place. So it's really a shame. They could have at least printed something on the court.
At least put the NBA Finals words on the court to make it look visual.
Yes, please.
But for a fan, I feel like the fans at the arenas don't even care that the marketing aspect.
And the fans at the arenas probably shouldn't, because again, they're invested in the game. But again, the TV audience is more important than everything.
Yeah.
Because that's where your millions upon millions of people are tuning in, and that's where your ad dollars are going for people watching commercials. Like that, you should be able to put forth the best effort possible, putting on the best production of your championship.
Now, does the market size matter?
In the NBA, it does, and I'm really interested to see what the final ratings are for this, because again, you have smaller market teams. You don't have super duper stars necessarily. You got really good players, but nobody to the level of the LeBrons or Stephs or anything like that. And again, football is really the only sport where market sizes don't matter when it comes to championships. And we're all going to watch Super Bowl no matter what. But the NBA is different.
Well, if anything, it's good that these two small market teams are getting to play on this stage. It's just a shame that when you're having two comparison videos and one is photoshopping a Larry O'Brien trophy in the middle of the court and going, which game looks like it has more aura?
Yeah.
And the one that actually got broadcasted isn't that game. It's upsetting. It's really upsetting, especially for those teams and especially for the Thunder. Well, you can make the case for either team being, disappointing just because of how long it's been for both of these teams to be on a stage like that. But, I mean, that's why you got to bring your A game every game, no pun intended.
Well, one of them is going to be hoisting that physical Larry O'Brien trophy here within the next week or so, claiming their first true title. I know the Supersonics had one, but that doesn't count towards the towards the Thunder since they've been in Oklahoma City. Some pretty big news coming out at the end of last week. Aaron Rodgers finally has a home. We'll discuss that and see how many times he's the best quarterback on the schedule this year for the Steelers. It's coming up next. It is The Extra Point. Tyler, Jalen, and Sam on your Monday here on The Game. Welcome back in. Extra Point. Tyler, Sam, and Jalen along with you on your Monday here on the game. Well, the end of last week, we finally got the news that we've been expecting for a while now. Aaron Rodgers officially going to the Pittsburgh Steelers on a 1-year deal after a, Sam, would you describe as a less than pleasant stay in New York with the Jets?
As the latter New York Jets fan, I could say that was probably what we were expecting more in comparison to what we were hoping we were going to get.
Yeah, so it didn't work out the way they wanted to. Obviously, never got them to the playoffs, certainly never turned them into a Super Bowl contender once again. So the value of what you thought he was going to bring didn't live up to it, obviously.
Not even a little bit, unfortunately.
I mean, I could say I thought the first season, it was a lot of hype going into that first game before he tore his. I thought he was going to take them there.
Here's the thing.
Before he tore his Achilles.
He was starting to trend down a little bit towards the end of his time in Green Bay, but still was a very good quarterback. If he doesn't tear his Achilles, who knows what happens in 2023?
Yeah.
But he did, and when he came back last year, he looked like a 40-year-old quarterback with one good Achilles, and you can only do so much with that.
And, when your defense is not living up to the hype that they did the season before, your offensive weapons can't necessarily gel together the way you want them to, and when your quarterback needs to, have a handle on every minute detail, especially of the offensive side of the ball.
So I can't remember which one of you I did this with the other week, but we went through the entire league to figure out how many quarterbacks we thought Aaron Rodgers was still, okay, it was you. Technically better than. I want to do that with the Jets schedule now, or excuse me, the Steelers schedule now that we know who he's going to be playing week in and week out. So obviously 17 games, and you're obviously going to have your division opponents you'll play twice, but we'll go through one game at a time here. And the NFL knew what they were doing. They knew he was likely going to go there, so they scheduled right off the jump Sunday, September the 7th, on the road in the Meadowlands, taking on the New York Jets and Justin Fields at quarterback. Is Aaron Rodgers a better quarterback than Justin Fields?
So unless Justin Fields balls out in this game, I think Pittsburgh's going to win. The Jets are notorious at blowing home openers that they should win. Another great example, Baker Mayfield giving the Browns their first regular season win, I think, in over a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
That was against the Jets. So, yeah, I mean, I saw that, and I was just like, the script writers, they just want my New York Jets to start 0-1 at home.
So would you say that Rodgers is the better quarterback option between the two?
At this point in time, yes, just because Fields has shown playing under, a winning team and a good system, with a coach like Mike Tomlin and a good offensive, a good offensive system going, that he is a talented quarterback and he can play well, but the Jets have shown that they are good at giving quarterbacks absolutely nothing. So I want to be proven wrong by Justin Fields, at least in week one.
I'm going to say yes, all because of his experience. Now, with Justin Fields, I personally thought that he could have had rolled out the quarterback starting window with Pittsburgh, with them winning games, and then you have to split it up with Russell Wilson. But if he can play like how he was playing in 2022, having 2,242 yards and 17 touchdowns, like that was the most of his career so far. I mean, you can really see an even matchup. But for right now, out of experience, I'm giving it to Aaron Rodgers.
All right, we'll agree across the board on that one. Yes, all the way through. Next game against Seattle, Sam Darnold, now a Seattle Seahawk after having a career resurgence this past year in Minnesota. Is Aaron Rodgers a better quarterback option than Sam Darnold?
Yes. I don't know what Sam Darnold was going to look like in Seattle. I don't know if he is a one-year pony from what he was able to produce in Minnesota. Different system, different coach. So very interested to see what that will look like. But for off of experience, again, yes.
I think based on the pure experience is because Darnold's only got, one pretty solid season under his belt. You might be more confident in giving Rodgers the edge here. However, Darnold's coming in with a pretty talented offense for the Seattle team. I know this is going to be his second game with this squad, but he's going to be throwing to Cooper Kupp next year.
And Smith and Jigba.
Yeah. So, I mean, that could be he could get a run for his money there, where is that game? It is
it's in Seattle. Or it's in Pittsburgh.
It's in
Pittsburgh.
So I mean, having home field advantage. I know playing a game in Seattle is a whole different, kind of similar to OKC. You're playing in a different home environment when you're going there.
Sure.
I don't know. That's kind of a toss up. I'd give Rodgers the edge, maybe just because He is the oldest quarterback in the NFL right now. He's got that experience, playing at a high level consistently more than Sam Darnold.
And again, we're talking about their current iterations right now, like what Aaron Rodgers is today compared to what Sam Darnold is today. And I would say I'd still give Aaron Rodgers just a very, very slight edge because I'm still skeptical that Sam Darnold is going to be able to replicate what he did last year. I think that might have been, who knows? We'll see. But as of right now, I still give Aaron Rodgers slight edge. Third game at New England. Drake May, obviously, rookie year or coming along as a young guy. New head coach now. I'm probably still going to lean towards Aaron Rodgers in this one as well, just because Drake May has not proven a whole lot as of yet. Hasn't had a lot around him to do that. And not saying he can't be a great quarterback, but I'd still probably give Aaron a little bit of the edge here.
I agree, but I think what we're going to see from Drake May, having an experienced coach and Mike Vrabel and an elite talent, hopefully with Stephon Diggs, with all the distractions off the field, I personally think that he could have a leap year going into his second year. So we'll see. It should be an entertaining game.
But as of right now,
it's Aaron Rodgers. As of right now, it's Aaron Rodgers. I said it off the jump. It was Aaron Rodgers.
I'm going Rodgers here, too. I mean, you got a young quarterback room. Josh Dobbs, not bad, but Josh Dobbs is not Aaron Rodgers.
All right, game number 4, taking on Minnesota, who we assume is going to be starting J.J. McCarthy, who's never started a game, coming off the injury from a year ago. I think this one goes without saying. This is also Aaron Rodgers.
I agree. That's a unison one for me.
Yeah, and for all we know, J.J. could look like Will Levis, so...
5th game of the year. I didn't expect we'd get this deep in before saying somebody else might be better than him, but Cleveland doesn't know who their quarterback is. They've got 5 of them. I'm assuming Joe Flacco is going to start the season. Who knows who's going to be the quarterback by the 5th game, but whoever it is, I still would give Rodgers the advantage over all that entire quarterback room as of now.
I agree.
The only comparable one is Joe Flacco just because of the longevity of both of their careers, but, I mean, it's not even close.
Yeah, and again, I don't know if Flacco's going to be starting by that game. Here's where things start to shift a little bit, though. 6th game of the year at Cincinnati. I think we can unquestionably say Joe Burrow is a better quarterback right now than Aaron Rodgers is.
Yes.
Yeah, Joe Shiesty is
Icy Joe.
Shiesty for a reason.
I'm calling him Icy Joe because he wears a lot of ice and he knows how to back it up, and his game is pretty cold.
Yeah, so, and obviously, did you look at his numbers last year? They were ridiculous, and it's insane that the Bengals missed the playoffs.
He led the league. I believe he led the league in yards, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, when you're down in games, you are going to throw for a lot more yards, but still, the numbers that he had should have been indicative of a team that made the playoffs, but they didn't.
4,918 yards, 43 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and a 70.6 completion rate.
And there were also 5 games this team lost last year where they scored 25 or more points. 4 of those games, they scored more than 30 points. So he was an offensive, he was leading the charge of an offensive onslaught.
Yeah.
Week in and week out. And if they, won more than 6 games the last 6 weeks of the season, they probably would have made the playoffs.
So through the first 6 games of the season so far, we say Aaron Rodgers has the advantage in 5 of them, the only exception being the Cincinnati game that coming up in mid-October. We'll hit the rest of the schedule and see how Aaron Rodgers fares against his other quarterback foes coming up next as the Extra Point rolls along. Tyler, Sam, and Jalen on your Monday here on The Game. Welcome back in. Extra point. Tyler, Sam, and Jalen hang out with you on your Monday here on the game. I think we have a record for the first time ever. One team gets back-to-back awards for Who Sprung a Leak, brought to you by our friends over at American Leak Detection. The Atlanta Braves, on their second 7-game losing streak of the season, swept by the Giants over the weekend, including 2 walk-offs on Friday and Saturday. They're now 10 games under 500, 14 games back in the NL East. Things not going well for the Braves right now.
I got to nominate Jannik Sinner from the. I don't know if you watched the French Open over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Sinner was up 2 sets to
That's
0.
a great one, yeah.
And lost the last 3 sets to Carlos Alcaraz. And the final set went into a tiebreak. And it was 8-0 in the tiebreak and lost 10-2 in the last set when you could have just won that last set and win the whole thing. God-awful way to go out.
There's your Who Sprung a Leak, brought to you by your friends over at American Leak Detection. Get back to our conversation about Aaron Rodgers. Now that we know he's a Pittsburgh Steeler, looking at the 17-game regular season schedule for the Steelers, determining how many times he's going to be the favored quarterback in those matchups based on what we know about the quarterbacks as of right now through the first 6 games. The only time we would say he is not the best quarterback so far is the game on the road in Cincinnati against Joe Burrow on Thursday, October the 16th. Now we get to the part of the schedule where this is going to be a little bit shifted in a different direction. Taking on his old team, Green Bay, in Pittsburgh on October 26th. I feel pretty comfortable saying Jordan Love is a better quarterback option right now than Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
I agree, just because Jordan Love has shown that he's quite literally filled the shoes that Aaron Rodgers once wore. I mean, he was they drafted him while he was still there, kind of as, that.
Yeah, just like they did with Rodgers and Favre back in the day. Like, hey, you're going to take over one day, but go learn from the guy that's probably the best in football right now.
Yeah, still got to bring Green Bay another ring, or bring them a ring, while he's at least at the helm at this point. But I would say at this point right now, Love is, although I wouldn't argue Love is necessarily like super duper healthy either. I mean, we've seen him suffer some sort of injury in the last couple seasons. My fantasy team took a major L this season actually from his injury. Because he was out, I think, weeks 2 through 8 or 9, roughly?
It was a couple weeks because he got hurt in that first game in Brazil.
Yeah.
Well, he was top 20 in the league. Well, Jordan Love, top 20 in the league in passing yards. 1,000 yards lower than what he had in 2023.
Because he missed a lot of the year.
Yeah. But my thing, I just think from what we saw last year, he had a pretty solid year. And I just interested to see with, who they drafted, Jaden Reed, Matthew Golden, and Romeo Dobbs. I mean, that's a
took a wide out this year.
I mean, that's a solid wide receiver core along with Josh Jacobs in your backfield.
But are you taking him over Aaron Rodgers right now?
Yes.
Okay. We'll agree across the board on that one. Another one for Aaron Rodgers, though, Indianapolis. Again,
all right.
I don't know if AR-15 is going to be healthy by that game, but regardless, I like Rodgers over whatever the quarterback situation is going to be when that game rolls.
I'll be the first to say I think AR is done in Indy. I'll just be the first to say that. I just think he's done with what happened, with what transpired last year. Going into this year being a quarterback battle with Daniel Jones, I think they should just give Daniel Jones the nod. Is Aaron Rodgers better than Daniel Jones? No, but I think Daniel Jones could keep the Colts in the game.
I'd take Aaron Rodgers over Daniel Jones.
I'd take Aaron Rodgers over either of these quarterbacks.
I meant to flip it the other way because I think Aaron Rodgers is better than Daniel Jones. That's what I was trying to say. I don't see Daniel Jones winning a quarterback battle against Aaron Rodgers.
Again, whoever ends up being the quarterback in Indy
is not beating Aaron Rodgers.
I would give Aaron Rodgers the nod on that one.
I think Anthony Richardson is a talented quarterback, but I think because he hasn't been able to stay healthy, he hasn't been able to show that yet, at least on an NFL playing field. So right now, or at least going into this season, I'm giving the nod to Rodgers on this one.
I agree.
Taking on the Chargers, Justin Herbert, definitely better quarterback option than Aaron Rodgers right now. I think that's pretty easy to say.
Yeah, kind of the same boat as Joe Shiesty. Great offense, commanding leader, super talented. Jim Harbaugh, I feel like he's a quarterback's coach kind of in a way. So,
and they got him better. They got Najee Harris, Mike Williams, and Trey Harris.
All of those kind of already work in the favor that, just in terms of raw talent at this point right now, I'm taking Herbert.
All right, second game against Cincinnati. Already said Joe Burrow, the better option there. At Chicago, the second year of number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams. This gets interesting because, I don't think we've seen the full potential of Caleb Williams yet, obviously. if I were drafting a team right now and I had Caleb Williams in his current state and Aaron Rodgers in his current state to go out there and win me one game, oh man, I probably would go with Caleb Williams, but it's tight.
It is close. I just think with me personally, I think Ben Johnson is the coach for the future for Chicago. I think he's going to elevate.
But we're talking specifically about the quarterback match.
Right,
here.
but I think what we're going to see from Caleb Williams is an elevation because of him. Is kind of the point of where I was going to. And I think if they're playing head-to-head, I do see Caleb Williams triumphantly having a better outing than Aaron Rodgers in this game. So I'm going with Caleb Williams because of Ben Johnson.
I see Caleb Williams going, well, there are only two ways to go, up or down. I could see him, making big strides and improvement and kind of, trajecting in the way that kind of Josh Allen did his first 2-3 years in the league. His first season kind of had to rely more on his feet because his accuracy wasn't necessarily there. I think Caleb Williams will either kind of find his accuracy a little bit more this year and kind of develop a better rapport with guys like DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. But then we also might see him kind of have a Dak Prescott sophomore slump where he kind of, or a CJ Stroud kind of slump where he might regress. I think if he regresses, you're totally giving Rodgers the nod in this one. But because he's so young and there is so much potential still behind him, I think he could come out this year and when the season's all said and done, he could be more talented than Aaron Rodgers is right now.
I'll make the next two easy. Buffalo and Baltimore, definitely no. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, way better options than Aaron Rodgers at this point.
I have no comment.
The day that Aaron Rodgers outruns Lamar or Josh Allen on a football field, I still don't think I'd make the argument that Aaron Rodgers is better than either of them.
I want to make it a point. We're not predicting the Steelers are going to win or lose all these games just based purely off of the quarterback versus quarterback matchup. Who's the better out of the two?
Yeah.
And again, there's no world right now where Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson is behind Aaron Rodgers in pretty much anything.
It's not even close.
Oh, Miami with Tua, again, assuming he could stay healthy. When he's healthy, and obviously that offense is doing what they're doing, I think unequivocally, yes. My question is he going to be healthy by the time that game rolls around, or will he have 5 more concussions by then?
I'm saying no. I got Rodgers over Tua.
Okay.
But just because of the passing. I mean, Tua did not hit over 3,000 last year.
Well, he missed a lot of the season with an injury again.
Yeah.
But when he's healthy, he's good.
But are you good to get out of the first round?
But we're not talking about the playoffs. We're talking about purely this matchup with the Steelers.
But if we're talking about overall, yes. But again, head-to-head, I just don't see him outlasting Rodgers in a game. I just don't see that happening.
Unless he's wearing that giant helmet that the villain Juggernaut's wearing when he goes on the field, I don't think he'll be playing by week 15. That's just me personally. I think it's going to be Zach Wilson. And, I mean, if we're debating Aaron Rodgers versus Zach Wilson, then I'm taking Aaron Rodgers. But if you put a healthy Tua on the field, he could make that system work. And in that case, you're not at least comparing apples to oranges. It's more of, a green apple to a red apple. I don't know. I think with a healthy Tua, you might make the argument just because he's younger and he has shown that he can be talented and win football games. But this is also Aaron Rodgers, and if you're putting a healthy Aaron Rodgers on the field, then I don't know. He also has a Super Bowl to his name. So
yeah, if Tua can go back to what he did in 2023, then yes. But if he's not going to be that version going into this season, then no.
Last one here, as far as new matchups at Detroit, Jared Goff. Obviously, really good resurgence these past couple of years with the Lions. I've taken pretty easily over Aaron Rodgers right now.
I agree.
Yeah, Jared Goff's playing the best football of his career right now. And, I mean, a lot of people forget that he was a former first overall pick with the Rams. I mean, he didn't play like it in the Super Bowl. He took him to that first year. But, I mean, now he certainly is playing like them for Detroit. And I want to see them at least try to make another run for the Super Bowl this year, the Lions.
And it's at Ford Field this year. I mean, for that game. That's a hard place to win, and I just don't see Rodgers, being in the moment of winning that game at Ford Field. So I got Jared Goff.
He might take it personal, though. Former NFC North rival.
Yeah.
Likes to own those teams, especially.
Last 2 games of the year, Cleveland and Baltimore obviously went over that. So to sum things up, let me count here. 1, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we determined in 7 of 17 games, Rodgers is probably the better quarterback option.
I'm actually surprised it's only 7 of 17.
So if he's better, do you think they have a chance to win?
Better than what? If they're better
than the quarterback, yes.
Oh, I mean, look, being the better quarterback doesn't mean you're going to win or lose the game necessarily. Crazy things happen in football. Just purely off of the quarterback matchups, though, I'd say he's the worst quarterback in half of them, or over half of them.
Yeah.
The one thing I am upset about is I was excited to see him and George Pickens was on Dallas at this point. I'm excited to see him and Metcalf, how they're going to connect, and to see if he's really going to turn Metcalf into a superstar wide receiver because, I mean, when he got drafted to Seattle, everyone was talking about how he was going to be the next Calvin Johnson, yada, yada, yada. I mean, if he's going to prove it at any point, the time is now.
Yeah.
I feel like he is a star in the league already. I just think now he's in a very
He's not
unusual,
Megatron, though.
Yeah, he's not, but he's in a very unusual situation. We've already seen Rodgers throwing the ball to DK Metcalf after Rodgers signed the 1-year deal. So, and I've seen the video. It looks pretty good. I mean, he's throwing the ball out. He's catching it. So it's just like, okay, that could be some great signs to see for Steelers fans.
Regardless of what happens, it's going to be a story to follow the entire season. We'll come back and wrap up hour number 2 of the Extra Point coming up next here on the game. On your Monday, that is, on the game. Welcome back in. Extra Point. Tyler, Sam, and Jalen along with you on your Monday here on the game. Wrapping up hour number 2. This past weekend, my nephew turned 11, so I went to his birthday yesterday. He really loves Legos. Got a lot of Legos. I bought him like this Monster Jam thing. Somebody else bought him. It's some kind of like spaceship. It's one of like the adult Legos. If you see them at like Target, they got like thousands upon thousands of pieces. You build some really elaborate stuff with those. Like that's his wheelhouse. Loves Legos, all that kind of stuff. My question is, like, what was your favorite birthday gift as a kid? What was the thing that got you excited more than anything else? That you either got once or got multiple times over the years.
Shout out, happy birthday to your.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Happy birthday to him.
Beyblades.
You got Beyblades? Okay.
I was a Beyblade kid.
I remember those.
So yeah,
Do you have a little plastic arena that you could battle in?
My parents did not like me doing it. They did not like me playing with those things, but I just enjoyed it. I was very big on the astrology aspect of the show and of the anime, so I was just like, okay, these are different combinations, different names. So I just started researching them as a kid, and it just was very fascinating to me until I got older, and I was like, I don't want to have to keep doing this. So I was like, no.
How about you?
I went through the phases, I would say, of like all the, I don't want to say all the main series type. First grade, it was Yu-Gi-Oh! Then, like, second grade onward was Pokemon. Then fifth grade was, like, a short stint with Bakugan. I don't know if you remember those.
Yeah.
Little, like, balls that you put them on the magnetic cards, and then they'd open into, like, some creature. They were kind of ahead of their time.
Yeah.
But then back to Pokemon. So I was kind of dabbling in that. But it's actually funny. My favorite birthday present ever. So I was actually I was a theater kid all through elementary, middle school, high school. And, growing up in New York City, you're exposed to, Broadway, all that kind of stuff. So the first movie I ever remember seeing in theaters as a kid was The Lion King. And that's obviously one of the biggest Broadway shows, still on Broadway. And so I forget what year. I was either 10 or 11. But my parents took me and my brother to go see The Lion King on Broadway. And my parents are from Long Island, so my mom will stop and talk to anyone. And we're walking into the building to go watch the show, and we see this like little weird door off to the side, and she sees somebody going what looks like down an elevator, and she stops the person and she's like, "Hi, I'm taking my boys to see Broadway, yada, yada, yada." Lo and behold, we find out that's a door to get down to the stage.
Yeah.
It's my son's birthday. Can we come downstairs and blah, blah, blah. Sure. Yeah. Lo and behold, we got to go backstage for free to The Lion King. We got to, like, walk on the stage and everything, and me and my brother got to, like, take pictures with the kids who played Simba and Nala, and then our holiday card that year was, like, in the back, and we took, like, pictures, and before there were selfies. We took pictures with the puppets that were, like, Timon and Pumbaa, because there weren't any, like, actors that actually played them.
Sure.
It was just, like, the people manhandling the puppets.
Yeah.
So being a 10-year-old, I did not really understand the magnitude of just how insane that actually was.
Mm-hmm.
But that was probably one of the coolest experiences I got for, like, ever, really. And it was a great birthday present.
It's a pretty good birthday. Man, they really went all out for that one.
Yeah, no, it was once a lifetime experience.
I got a Red Ryder, or I got a Daisy BB gun when I was 9, I think.
That's
pretty
cool.
excited about that. That was pretty cool.
No NASCAR?
I had plenty of those over the years, but none stand out specifically to me. But that BB gun was pretty cool.
Okay.
So that'll do it for the extra one. Coming up next, Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the game. Well, 11 o'clock on your Monday morning. Welcome back in. Extra Point now. It's not the Extra Point. It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head along with you here in the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. Chris Clark joining me remotely once again. Chris, you guys say that you keep having these camps, but I'm beginning to think that you and Wes are just trying to avoid me by not wanting to come in studio. I'm starting to think that a little bit here.
I'm so sorry that you're offended. We don't mean to. I'm actually sitting on the beach again. I'm just saying that I'm at camp.
Sure.
So if you hear the ocean and wind and all those things, let me say I actually am not at the beach. I'm at camp in my car, and I wish there was an ocean breeze because it is. I'm not complaining.
Yeah. Okay.
If Wes happens to be listening from the field, I have mentioned several times that it's hot because it is, but I'm trying not to complain.
Is that the AC that I'm hearing in the background then?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it too loud? We are doing this, of course, we're doing it remotely.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's not too loud, but when you said on the beach, I was like, I do actually hear a breeze in the background, if that's what you're alluding to, but that would be the AC.
Yes, it is. I decided not to do this in the heat while I'm out here at camp. I'll get a brief reprieve while we talk. So I thought that was a good strategy.
I don't think your phone would hold up out there either. I don't know about yours, but mine if I'm using my phone in the sunlight, it's going to be cooked in like 3 to 4 minutes.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right.
So we'll talk some camp stuff here coming up in a second. By the way, how was the beach? Did you actually get to relax at all?
Yeah, I did some relaxation for sure. We had one day where it stormed. But, I got to relax some, did do some work. There was a time in the past, several years ago where, I was able to kind of truly unplug for a week.
Sure.
That time is not now, but that's okay. Got flexibility to go down to the beach. We got a great team at Gamecock Central. We got you running the show there. We got Wes. So I was able to do some relaxing, so it was good.
Well, this is the least busy time of the year in a way, but also not, especially for you guys because of the recruiting, which never stops, especially once you get into the summer months.
It is. I think, people say that a lot. When I run into people, see friends, are like, hey, so, maybe you get some time off. It's like, no, not really. July is the way the recruiting calendar and the college football calendar is situated. July is probably the one true slow, quote-unquote, month. There's not a lot of recruiting activity because there's a dead period, so there's no camps, there's no official visits. People, even the coaches and the support staffers and the players, they will actually get time off. The coaches will actually be away from the office in July. June, and Shane Beamer talked about this recently, the month of June is pretty packed from a football standpoint. And you think about it, you've got players doing summer workouts. In fact, we, saw a bunch of them milling around in the indoor facility doing workouts with Luke Day and his staff. They're in the summer workouts. So, of course, if you're Shane Beamer and the coaching staff, you're keeping tabs on that. You've got recruiting with unofficial visits. You've got official visits. South Carolina has now completed 2 of their 3 June official visit weekends. Those are, as you can imagine, incredibly busy. And then you've got camps going on. This is day 3 of camp. They've got, I believe, 9 or 10 of those, in total camp days. So a pretty packed month of June from a football standpoint.
So let's kind of look back on the weekend that was. Of course, Wes got things started on Friday when he was out there at one of the, or Thursday and Friday when he was out there at the first couple of Shane Beamer football camps. And again, when we talked to him early on in the day, they were still getting registration, all that kind of stuff going. So didn't really get to talk to him about what actually took place at these camps. I know you were obviously out of town, but what did we learn, if anything, from the first couple of camps so far this summer?
Well, and just to set the stage, there's different types of camps. The first couple camps were just generalized prospect camps. So really you'll see every position, except for specialists. You don't generally have those on the one-day camps, but you'll see everything from quarterbacks to linemen, right? And they just kind of split them up, and they all go do their thing. Today is a little bit of a different day because you've got a little bit more of a specialized camp. So day 3, and there's several of these other days, You've got a team passing camp going on, so 7-on-7 football at the indoor facility. You've got it at the old Proving Grounds practice fields and on the current practice fields. So you've got games going on all those fields simultaneously. A bunch of teams bus in, bring their teams, play 7-on-7. And then over at Williams-Brice Stadium, you've got the O-line, D-line camp that are more specialized. They'll also have Joe DeCamillis will have a specialist camp where he'll work out, kickers, punters, snappers later this summer as well. That's generally just a one-day thing. But, yeah, Wes was out there the first couple of days of camp. And, there were some guys of interest, that rolled through the first few days. One of them that I would point out and highlight, Tyler, was Trent Seaborn from Alabaster, Alabama, Thompson High School out there. This is a guy that is a national level recruit, and he worked out at South Carolina last summer. He's put up huge numbers in high school. He's ranked as the number 196 prospect in the country by On3 industry ranking, which is, of course, the weighted average. They got offers from everywhere, Southeast and beyond. So, you kind of like to see that, right? That's the guy that got offers from South Carolina and everywhere else. He could just kind of hang out with the staff, but he came in, competed again. From what Wes told me, what I read from Wes as well. He got some additional work in. He's a front of the line type of guy. He's gotten a little bigger, and from a height and frame standpoint since last year, and was someone that South Carolina staff paid close attention to. You also had Stone Fury, and Stone, of course, is the son of current South Carolina wide receivers coach Mike Furry. He's going to play at Dutch Fork this year. He's gotten some offers, but will be interesting to see what type of power or traction comes about this year. I really think he could rise up some boards, maybe even including at South Carolina, because he's put down some quality 40 times. He ran a 4.46 40 at South Carolina's camp last week, and is going to play in Dutch Fork's offense for Tom Knotts, which always produces year in and year out. So just a couple names there from the first few days to keep an eye on.
And, of course, that is the camps themselves, but even more important is what's happening over the course of the weekend when it comes to actual campus visits with recruits looking to nail down their commitments. Wes and I have talked about the importance of coming in early and the importance of having these guys in the last couple cycles as well. And this past weekend, ton of big names on campus, and was able to come away from the weekend with a couple of welcome homes. The Harris twins, both committing to South Carolina. 4-star defensive tackle Aiden and 4-star linebacker / edge. Not really sure where they're going to put him at in Andrew as well.
Yeah, there's a couple guys that South Carolina's been on for a while, and one thing to, I think, clarify is, in a lot of ways, these first two visit weekends, including this past weekend, a lot of the guys that visited still have other visits that they're planning on taking, and they had them scheduled. A lot of them want to take those visits, get a full picture before they close out their recruitment either later this summer or maybe into the season before they decide. And so, you can't really look at it and say, okay, they've had two visit weekends, they've quote-unquote only gotten a couple commitments. Of course, there's another welcome home circulating out there that hasn't been revealed yet from a while back. But really, that doesn't tell the full story. It's about who you get at the end of the process, and I think they put themselves in good position with some guys. But always good to actually walk away from the weekend with some commitments. That's it. And these two happen not at the end of the visit. They happen kind of in the middle of it. So, Aiden Harris is a guy that's got really good film. He's got to get a little bigger at the college level. Talking to him yesterday, he acknowledged that. But he's got, I think, a great aggressive mindset. He can move. He's talented. He's got the frame to get bigger. A really nice pickup and really a long time coming. He's got really good relationships with multiple members of the South Carolina staff. And, Andrew Harris is a guy, Tyler, as you mentioned, a 4-star. He is ranked by some services as an edge, but South Carolina fully plans on playing him as a linebacker, probably an outside linebacker type. If you think maybe kind of in the mold of a Bam Martin Scott type role where you can deploy him as a pass rusher, he can blitz, but he can also run sideline to sideline and play in space. This is a guy that when you see him in person has great size and really good physical tools as well. So it will be a position switch for him in terms of going from playing with his hand down in high school to playing standing up most of the time, playing in space at the college level. But the staff's excited and fired up to have both of those guys in the recruiting class for 2026.
And when you talk about Aiden Harris, again, the defensive lineman, out of the two, he goes to the top of the board for South Carolina's 26th class as far as guys committed so far, based on his overall industry ranking, and the 3-star Mafia will be happy about this. The only non-4-star signed right now or committed right now are Kenan Britt and Anthony Baxter. So a lot of 4 stars in this class of 26 for South Carolina, with still plenty of time to go before this thing's finalized.
Yeah, and that's the key, right? I mean, 2 of 3 official visit weekends down, but Carolina, I think, has put themselves in a strong position with several other guys, including some guys that have 4 stars by their name or more. You know, you think about, for example, a Carter Meadows, you know, from the first weekend, a 5-star guy. They have guys on the board that could really ending up bolstering this class ranking. They're currently 15th in the On3 industry rankings. You know, over the weekend, and I think this changed because Texas got some commitments. They actually jumped Texas and Ole Miss, you know, 2 programs that have recruited obviously extremely well. So it's still early, and again, I'd reiterate, it's about who you get at the end. It's not even about who you miss on or when you get them. It's about who you sign. But they've gotten some strong early commitments, both in-state and out-of-state, and they have certainly an opportunity to eventually finish with a really good class, but a lot of work to do and a lot of time that will elapse between now and then.
Yeah, a lot of things looking good right now for South Carolina's 26th class, and of course with camps and obviously the recruiting weekends as well. Plenty of time to build on that as the summer does roll along. Well, we got some pretty significant news on Friday afternoon as the official landscape of college sports has officially changed forever going forward. We'll dive into what happened with the House settlement coming up next as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs rolls along. Tyler and Chris on your Monday here on The Game. Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head in the Hernan Chevrolet Studios. Chris Clark joining me remotely from Shane Beamer football camp on this Monday here on the game. On Friday afternoon, as we headed into the weekend, and Chris was somewhere on a beach, we got the monumental news that we've been waiting for in the world of college sports. We've talked about it a lot leading up to this, but it's finally done. The House settlement, where now student athletes can be paid directly by their universities through the $20.5 million fund that everybody can have that amount up to, divvied up between the revenue sports. We've gone over this 6 ways from Sunday. Chris, I said this earlier to Jack, though. I don't like when people are phrasing this as a solution to the problems in college athletics, because it's going to be anything but that. I feel like we're just opening up the Pandora's box to even more problems going forward, now just with more direct payments to athletes from the schools that wasn't there before. Chris, do we still have you?
Yeah, Tyler, my apologies. Yeah, so, I mean, we you're right. We've broken down this thing every which way. But now we can talk about it in terms of it actually being done instead of if this happens, and kind of try to analyze what the next steps are going to be. And to some degree, we are still speculating on the next steps. But given how long this runway has been, a lot of people have been preparing for the House settlement to actually go through. And not only are schools, administrators, conferences, preparing for that, they've been preparing to administer that part of it. But then there's all the other stuff, what's next? And you're right, the NCAA, the conferences, I would say a lot of administrators and a lot of coaches would love for this to be the solution, but realistically, it is not, right? Without some type of structure, which would be extremely unique, it would have to be because of how unique college athletics is. But without a structure where both sides have agreed to it, everything, the whole enchilada, you are going to continue having problems. And a lot of these have been talked about, right?
Yep.
Above the cap revenue. We know from following college sports for a long time that it is an arms race in every facet. And if you put in a rule, people are going to find a way to either bend or outright break that rule to gain a competitive advantage, or they're going to do something that is legal, is outside the framework of what's been agreed upon in order to gain a competitive advantage. So for a long time, people have already been talking about over the cap revenue, and really what that means is compensating players above the revenue share. So, a couple things that stand out to me, Charlie Baker, the president of the NCAA, put out a statement that I thought was honestly asinine, saying that, basically they were getting relief from lawsuits with this settlement. And I think this is just the beginning of those types of things. I don't think by any means lawsuits have been ended. And the main reason I think that is, think about the first time that NIL Go, which is the software that Deloitte has created, that the College Sports Commission is administering, as the clearinghouse, as it's been called, for any NIL deal that's non-revenue share over $600 in value. Think about the first time that they say, actually, no, that's outside of our reasonable compensation range. What's going to happen? Probably lawsuits.
Yep.
What if athletes just don't report them? There will be creative ways that athletes, agents, collectives, and schools come up with to do this. So it is a way to officially unlock roster limits, revenue share compensation, but a lot of the other questions are still lingering.
By the way, Ross Dellinger had this number a while back that if this clearinghouse through Deloitte had been around since the beginning of NIL back in 2021, roughly 70% of the deals that have been done up to this point would not have qualified based on what their criteria is, which, again, now you're opening yourself up to lawsuits of saying, hey, now you're telling me what I can and can't make based on this and based on that. And I get the principle behind it because, and again, we're not going to sugarcoat this, it's become pay for play, where most schools have a collective where they get as much money as they can, and they say, hey, we need a quarterback. All right, I'm going to go out there. We're going to find a quarterback. We're going to pay him $12 million to come play for our school. And it's not through a brand deal. It's not through, the car dealership or whatever. It's the money directly from that NIL collective to that athlete to come play for the school. It is what it is. We've been doing this for years now. We're not going to sugarcoat it. They're trying to prevent those things from happening by saying, hey, you can still earn additional NIL on top of the rev share, but it's got to be something legitimized. Like, okay, quarterback A, you're going to go do the local Chevrolet dealership. All right, well, they're going to pay you this much money. You're going to do these commercials. You're going to do these appearances. It's all going to be straightforward. No more of this, hey, you just come play for us, and here's a bag of money. But again, on paper, that sounds like a great idea. But in my mind, there is no way you can actually enforce this and get away with it if these guys, like you even said, are willing to report their own stuff. Because there are thousands upon thousands of these deals going on. They can't track down every single one. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not like these numbers are public as it is anyway. Like, I don't see how this is going to work.
Yeah, I mean, now there is the College Sports Commission is supposedly, beefing up their enforcement, right? With everything from, recruiting rules to, different rules within the structure of college athletics that coaches have to follow, et cetera. And so you could say, okay, well, they're going to crack down more on that. But, my question is kind of how. I mean, how do you actually know if an athlete has even completed a deal? This goes back to kind of the old days, the pre-NIL days. There are a lot of deals made, that never saw the light of day, and they just happened. And so we could go back to more of that. We also know that collectives have been very smart and very strategic in how they've deployed these deals. I mean, it is pay for play, but a lot of collectives have been very, very smart about how they've structured deals to where athletes are actually having to complete contracted deliverables. And sometimes, some do better than others at actually making sure those things are done. But those have always passed the muster under the old structure. So let me give you an example. I mean, under the new structure, and I'm just going to make up some numbers. Let's say contract an athlete, we're going to give you $100,000 this year.
Sure.
And you have to do these things. If somehow the Deloitte, NIL Go, the clearinghouse, if they say, okay, well, our reasonable compensation range for a player who's a starter in a Power 4 school is actually $75,000 to do those things. Well, you just write the contract to include all the different things. And they really don't have a way to know whether or not the athletes completed those things or whatever it may be. So, and you also just see the inconsistency already. It came out recently that Deloitte said, actually, no, we're not calling it fair market value, even though they had called it before.
Yeah.
They got reamed for it. They changed it to, no, we're doing a reasonable compensation range. The difference between those two, what it is, I have no idea. Not sure they do either. So, and the thing that you mentioned about Ross Dellinger is a great example of it. They don't have data from every NIL deal that's been done since 2021. I know for a fact. I mean, they don't even have close to it. So there's really no way for them to make a statement like that. I'm sure everybody loved to hear it, but it's kind of a form of gaslighting, to be honest, because they don't have the data. So this will all be very fascinating. I tend to think, Tyler, the clearinghouse is going to be a waste of time and money and a bust at the end of the day, because I think people are just going to find a way around it.
Yeah, probably so. And again, I theorize their line in the sand is deals worth $600 and more. I think we're going to see a suspicious amount of deals worth $599 that, maybe done 20 times over instead. Like, again, there's ways around this. And if they haven't learned that at this point, I don't know if they ever will. I can say definitively this is the weakest the NCAA's ever been, and at this point, the strongest they'll ever be again, probably, because they continue to lose power by the day, and especially now, where, really eligibility and hosting tournaments is the only thing that they're going to be good for, and even the eligibility thing they can't get right, as we've learned with Rasul Faison and what's going on with him. So, yeah, I'm interested to see the structure of this College Sports Commission, but, the NCAA, I heard Feinbaum say it the other day, they're effectively dead at this point.
Well, and that's, you've got this other entity, this College Sports Commission. They've hired an outsider, so to speak, to lead it, which, maybe that's a good thing. But I just think, and I had some conversations with even some of our members on the Insiders Forum on Gamecock Central about this, and it was pointed out to me, well, because I've always pounded the table for some type of bargaining structure, and it was told to me, hey, you can't do bargaining because of this and this, but that's kind of assuming a traditional framework, and the traditional framework of college athletics is dead, and it's still very entertaining, right?
Sure.
People are tuning in record numbers. It's just different, and so I do still think we ultimately have to get to that. There's a lot of hoops to jump through, a lot of hurdles. Things would have to be structured very differently, but I still think that's what we've got to get to. It's possible. It's tough, but if we're ever going to see something that's more streamlined and that makes more sense, I do think we have to find a way to get to some type of structure where both sides come to the table and have an agreement.
Well, that's where we're at. Again, the settlement officially done, and college athletes set to be paid by the university starting effectively on July 1st going forward, and whatever unintended consequences may come, I'm sure we'll be talking about that very soon, certainly in due time. Chris is going to hang with me for a couple more minutes on the other side. We'll throw him the trivia question of the day as we're 83 days away from kickoff, then let him get back to camp. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler and Chris on your Monday on the Game.
All right, folks, let me tell you about our friends over at Integrated Media. The beautiful thing about it is you can take your dreams for that home, make it a smart home, dreams for your man cave, dreams for the living room, and they can take whatever you're thinking about and then just turn it into a reality. You can hit them up today, integratedmediainc.com, or give them a phone call. It is 803-948-8327. Their services include basically anything to do with your TV, your surround sound, your smart home services, or securities and cameras. If you work from home, for me, it was all about my home office. Didn't really have a great connection to the Wi-Fi. Needed hardwired internet, so they came in. They ran Ethernet throughout the home into my office, into my wife's office, and made sure we had a great connection there. And then we went a step further with whole home Wi-Fi. They can also hang TVs. They can hide the wires for you, and they can go all in on that man cave too. Hit them up today. Again, for more information, integratedmediainc.com.
Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler and Chris along with you here on your Monday on the game. 83 days, only 83 days till South Carolina kicks things off against Virginia Tech in Mercedes-Benz Stadium on August 31st. And of course, Chris, it's come to the time of the show where it's time to take a trivia question. Now, you and Wes have not been in studio together in over a week, but you have gone back and forth. You have now taken the lead once again, 2 to 1.5, based on your question, getting your question right on Friday. Now you have an opportunity to double Wes's total if you can get today's question right.
I'm ready.
Now, do you want a layup or do you want something that's a little more challenging?
I like that I have the option. I guess that's my reward for showing up, parentheses, virtually to the show today.
Yes.
That I get to pick. I mean, so give me both, and you can decide which one you want to count. You're the judge. You're the arbiter here.
All right. So I can ask you both questions to see if you can get them both right.
Yes.
All right. That's fair.
There you go.
All right. I will go with the layup first. Back in 1983, then in his first year as South Carolina's head coach, Joe Morrison gave the phrase of, if they ain't swaying, we ain't playing. The question is, what team did they beat that day that quote came from? And
you sounded like...
go ahead.
Okay. No. Go ahead, Tyler. Sorry.
Do you want the second question as well before you answer either one?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. The second question is, South Carolina fell to Clemson by a score of 22-13 back in 1983. How many other times in the history of their rivalry has that point total occurred? Multiple choice options are 0, 1, or 2.
All right, let me go back to the first one.
All right.
Now you said that's a layup. That happened let me first of all, that happened in 1983,
but
before I was born.
I feel like, though, for the significance in the history of the program, because that's something people still say to this day. I feel like that's something that even if you weren't alive back then, you've at least heard the story of when it happened and why it happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I do know that there was kind of the new upper deck.
Yep.
That year. And I feel like it was
not an SEC opponent, I will tell you that much.
Yeah, right. It was because Carolina, they played some significant out-of-state opponents. I really feel like it was Southern Cal.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
That is correct. 38-14.
Okay.
October 1st, 1983. And yes, the upper deck was swaying, which led to the quote.
There we go. Okay.
Now, do you want to attempt the other one as well?
Yeah, let's go for the other one.
All right.
Give it to me one more time.
Okay.
Because that other one took all my brain power.
So South Carolina fell to Clemson 22-13 back in 1983. How many other times in the history of their football rivalry has that exact score happened? Your options are 0, 1, or 2.
22-13 is a weird score. I feel like the 2005 game was something like 16-13 or something, but that wouldn't qualify. Clemson won on I think basically a walk-off field goal that year. Don't ask me why I randomly remember that. I'm going to go with 1. I feel like there's got to be another instance where that happened. It's just such a random score and such a random question, so I'll go with 1.
Incorrect. It is a scoregami. That has only happened once in the history of the South Carolina-Clemson rivalry.
Good question. That one stumped me.
I'll give you the point for the Morrison quote, though.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm learning a lot out of these, by the way, for just giving myself my own history lesson, which is part of the process of doing this, too. So a lot of interesting history over the years with South Carolina, and makes for some interesting questions.
I just hope when we get into, 50 days from kickoff, you don't start with the 19. We're going to have to transition to player numbers, scores, stats, because the farther back we get, the tougher this gets. And we're already not doing very well, Tyler.
Well,
so you'll have to cut us some slack.
That's the fun part. It's challenging you as well. But yes, as we get into the years where information on the teams is not as readily available, I may have to shift a little bit. But for now, we're doing okay. We've got Wikipedia pages. We've got newspaper articles. I'm pulling from all over the place. So now once we get down to like 24 days, we will transition back to the 2000s. So those questions will be a whole lot easier.
Okay, that'll be good. Well, and hopefully I don't screw those up, because those are questions that I should probably have a better feel for, and I don't want to embarrass myself by missing layups.
Well, congratulations. Now you lead 3-1.5 over West. So when you see him out there today, rub it in his face.
I'll let him know, and we'll have to get him on. We'll have to get. We got to do more head-to-heads. We need to both be on the show.
Now, what is this week going to look like, by the way? I know you guys have a couple camps this week.
Yeah, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday camps this week.
Okay.
So are you asking for scheduling purposes?
Yes,
We're just going to work this out live on the air?
I would like to know for scheduling purposes.
Yes, we will. Yep, we'll figure it out. But Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, kind of same schedule out here for the listeners, so they're not just listening to Tyler and I just work out our radio schedule live on air. More, 7-on-17 passing camps, as well as O-line, D-line camps. There's at least one more this week, maybe both of the dates. Don't have it in front of me, our camps. So, I mean, there are, by the way, Tyler, some prospects of interest here today, especially over the O-line, D-line camp.
Okay.
Just to kind of close this out, I mean, KJ Green, a 2027 edge out of Georgia, who has a bunch of offers. He's been to South Carolina, I mean, at this point, several times. A guy that Sterling Lucas has been on for a long time. He was stretching out, putting the helmet on, getting ready to go, and we were out there earlier this morning. So he's working out, and a priority guy in that class. Several offensive linemen as well from the 2026-2027 class, including a guy, Maxwell Hiller, out of Pennsylvania, who's a top 100 guy, according to some services, getting ready to work out. They probably about to go watch some one-on-ones here in a little bit, Tyler, but he's a guy that's been to South Carolina. I think this is number 2 or number 3 in terms of visits for him. He just got offered by Clemson earlier this week, has offers from all over the country. So definitely a little bit of star power here, and we anticipate more of that throughout camp season too.
Very cool. Will I see you guys tomorrow? Well, it's Tuesday. Is that fair game?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Just making sure.
It's fair game. You will see us. Yes.
By the way, for reference, you're one of like 8 people that I'm working with over the course of the 6 hours today. So I'm just trying to get everything straight.
We like to make it. It's like a puzzle. We like to make it as difficult as possible on you.
Well, that's okay. Have fun. Stay cool, and bring some good stuff in tomorrow.
All right, Tyler. See you later.
All right, Chris Clark out at another Shane Beamer football campus. Those will be going on all summer long, and, of course, plenty of great and busy recruiting weekends as well, where, again, you had the Harris Twins committing this past weekend, adding to South Carolina's 2026 class. We'll come back and wrap up the hour. Up next here on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head along with you here on the game.
Our friends over at Game Day Men's Health can help you as a man reclaim your vitality by optimizing hormone levels. They specialize in TRT, or testosterone replacement therapy, which will help boost your energy and strength. And they're a lot different than other clinics that do similar things. They have in-house labs that can deliver your results in just 15 minutes. They're conveniently located in Northeast Columbia near I-77 and Two Notch Road. Comfortable man cave style clinics with TVs and refreshments while you wait. Also great, they don't use any long-term contracts. Flexible plans tailored to your needs. TRT tests available to check your levels with absolutely no obligation, and then ongoing monitoring, committed to your success with expert guidance. You can get started by going to GameDayMen'sHealth.com/North-Columbia. Again, located just off I-77, or give them a call, 803-265-3161.
Ground ball, backhanded by Good, over to first. And you can light up the UT Tower burnt orange. Texas is finally bringing the championship home to Austin.
Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Head wrapping up today's edition of the show. That was the call. Beth Mowins on Friday night on ESPN out in Oklahoma City as the Texas Longhorns defeat in-state rival Texas Tech in game number 3 of the series to take home their first ever Women's College World Series crown in a game that, for the most part, was not all that competitive. There was a lot of juice and excitement, coming in, given how the first 2 games had gone. Obviously, Texas Tech being able to even the series at 1 game apiece back on Thursday, and when Najee Kennedy gets back on the mound once again on Friday, as she had done pretty much the entire run through the postseason so far, you expected her to go out there once again and have another phenomenal performance, and that was not the case. As the Longhorns jumped on her pretty quickly there right out of the jump and got that up to a 5-0 game after 1 inning, 6-0 after 3 innings, and then 10-0 after 4 innings before Texas Tech was finally able to put some offense on the board. So a tough way to go out for the Texas Tech Red Raiders, who, again, really put their eggs in the Najee Kennedy basket this year with her $1 million NIL deal, and she did indeed lead the team all the way to the College World Series finals, just coming up short by having that bad, third game appearance. And, we talk about the new era of college sports and all that kind of stuff. She had already signed a new deal prior to Friday to come back for next season. If you're not familiar, because Chris and I talked about the, clearinghouse and all that kind of stuff, if your deal was signed prior to the house settlement going through, then you're grandfathered in. You don't have to worry about it. So she's locked in for next year with her $1 million+ NIL deal, and the expectation for Texas Tech is to once again get themselves back to this position of playing in Oklahoma City again. Their hopes, obviously, for their first ever national championship, like Texas was able to do this year after coming up just short to their bitter rival in Oklahoma the past couple years in the final there. On the men's side of things, in college baseball, we have got almost all the teams figured out, 7 out of the 8 of them, when it comes to Omaha to play for the College World Series title. And Coastal Carolina, one of the ones that's surprising to some people, making it to Omaha once again, but to head coach Kevin Schnall, not surprising at all when it comes to his Chanticleers, who he says are not a Cinderella story.
This is no Cinderella. I want to make sure that's known. This is no Cinderella. Coastal Carolina, the past century, only 8 teams have been to the regionals more times than us. During that same time period, we've got the 6th best winning percentage, the 9th most wins. This is not a Cinderella story. We're one of the premier, most successful college baseball programs in the entire country, and our Hall of Fame coach retired last year, and he left a foundation for this team and this program to remain successful and to remain one of the premier college baseball programs in the country for the years to come.
And they went into Auburn taking on, obviously, a very good Auburn Tigers team. Were able to go in there and pull off the victory. And not only that, they won 2-0. So Auburn didn't even get a lick in at any point during that, as they'll advance back to their first College World Series since winning it all the way back in 2016. And Auburn going down means that's one less bullet in the chamber when it comes to the SEC trying to get teams all the way to Omaha. Of course, they put 13 teams in the NCAA tournament this year, which, of course, is a record for any single conference, much like men's basketball did. And I said, back when men's basketball did it with all their teams making it to the, NCAA tournament, you're going to have to get teams obviously deep into it. And I said at least play for a national championship, which they obviously did with with Florida being able to win it this year with head coach Todd Golden. And as of right now, I feel like the SEC, when it comes to the NCAA baseball tournament, also needs to get themselves to the point of at least having a team play for the national championship. When it's all said and done, that team will not be the Tennessee Volunteers, as again they fell to Arkansas 2-0 over the weekend out there in Fayetteville. Arkansas kind of being positioned as the seemingly overall favorite as of right now, based on how they're playing baseball and trying to bring home that College World Series crown. LSU being the other team from the SEC that has an opportunity to go in there and win the whole thing. Which again they've done that plenty of times. Did it just a couple seasons ago, and we'll see if they're able to do that. But not as heavy a contingent of the SEC in the College World Series this year as has been in years past, where sometimes they're taking up half the field, but that won't be the case this time around. But nevertheless, should be fun. We got one more game coming up later on today to serve as that final spot for making it into the College World Series for baseball. That'll be Duke and Murray State. Murray State thumping Duke yesterday to even up the series. They'll play the rubber game coming up tonight. That'll be at 7 o'clock on ESPN. And again, winner punches their ticket to the College World Series. Should be a fun one for what's been a pretty crazy tournament so far. So that'll do it for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs halftime show with myself and a smattering of guests coming up next, starting off with Scott Hamilton of the Post and Courier. We'll dive back into what's going on with House Settlement and what that means for the future of college sports. All that coming up next here on The Game.
All right, guys, you know what? This show presented by our friends over at Firehouse Subs. Almost lunchtime. Time for you to hit up firehousesubs.com or the Firehouse Subs app. Hopefully you already got that thing downloaded. I hit up some Firehouse Subs earlier this week. Went with my favorite, the brisket add bacon. But if you're wanting to try something new, we've been telling you about the new Hot Ones featured zesty garlic hook and ladder and spicy dill hook and ladder, of course.